Bird, thank you very much. The Nets led by as many as 17 in this one. They didn't trail since the 6-minute mark of the second quarter, and it was Kyrie Irving in that big second quarter who went off to put a little space between the Nets and the Wizards tonight. Chris Sheeran, Frank Isola back here in our Yes Network studios. And Frank, the Nets, well rested except for Royce O'Neal, back in action tonight, and they keep the winning streak alive.
Yeah, I think if you're Jacques Vaughn, you have to be really happy. He rested a lot of his players on Saturday. You get the win. Everyone comes back tonight except for Royce O'Neal, like you mentioned. They were down 6. Kyrie went on that little run. That jumper that he hits there, he goes to the free throw line, makes the free throw. The Nets take the lead. They held the lead the last 30 minutes and 30 seconds of this game. I love the way that they played. And think about this. The Nets have now won 2 straight games. Kevin Durant obviously not scoring any points in the fourth quarter against Indiana because he didn't play. Tonight, just 2 points in the fourth quarter for Kevin Durant. So it's always good when you don't have to play Kevin Durant a lot of minutes. Tonight, I think it was about 33 minutes. You didn't need him to bail you out at some point. That's a positive sign. And I'll tell you another positive sign. Kyrie Irving, not only the scoring, and tonight he had some brilliant passes, especially to Ben Simmons in that third quarter. How about Kyrie Irving diving on the floor for a loose ball, going into the crowd, that pass that he threw over his head? Granted, Corey Kispert caught the ball, but at least Kyrie was doing the right thing, hustling and throw it toward the other basket. So Kyrie's doing a lot of other things as opposed to just scoring out there, and that's an encouraging sign.
Yeah, and he knew he had to step up when Kevin Durant was on the bench. He did that in the second quarter, and as we mentioned, gave Nets a little separation from the Wizards. The final stats now from the Nets and Wizards include our key to the game. That's turnovers. Washington committed 20 of them, while Brooklyn made just 13. And in terms of points off these turnovers, the Nets outscored the Wizards 21-10. So that had a lot to do with it, but you brought up the point. It was Kyrie Irving. He really gave the Nets a jump start in that second quarter. Kevin Durant also chips in. He has 30 points. But, Frank, we're seeing this team, and you said it in the pregame show as well, and I want to bring that back around, and that is the fact that Kevin Durant saw, you know, he didn't play in that game against the Pacers, and he saw the depth and the hustle and the heart that that team had in that 136-point win over the Pacers, the most points they've scored this season. So that has to give everyone on the team confidence.
Yeah, and I think if you go back to the offseason, there was that story that come out about Kevin Durant where he said, you know, well, when I went out of the lineup, we weren't playing well enough. And for him to see what happened on Saturday night, not only with the team playing well, again, first time in franchise history, 40-plus points in the first quarter, 40-plus in the fourth, and the way they won that game. And you get the guys back tonight. And again, too, not to minimize it because all the wins count. It doesn't matter who's playing or isn't playing. They beat Memphis without some key guys, including Ja Morant. They beat Atlanta the other night, which didn't have DeJounte Murray. They win tonight without Bradley Beal. So they're catching breaks along the way, but the point is they're taking advantage of it. And during this run that they've been on, they've won 8 of their last 9 games, 4 straight now. You can just see a lot of different pieces and guys playing well. Cam Thomas the other night in Indiana, the 21 points in the fourth quarter. Ben Simmons tonight had some good moments. Nick Claxton, who has been really one of their best players from start to where we are now, you know, he continues to play well. And again, Kyrie Irving, there was that point. He's suspended for 8 games, and let's be honest here, you didn't know what was going to happen. Is he going to be on the team? Is he going to be traded somewhere else? He came back after that suspension, and he has played really well for them. Not just scoring, but also setting guys up. Remember, coming into this game tonight, he had back-to-back games that he played of 33 points, and tonight he had a big game as well.
Let's go back to what we were talking about in the pregame show, too, and that's defense under Jacques Vaughn. And in that fourth quarter, you commented on it right before we came on the air. Final score in that fourth quarter was 18-17. Yeah. They held the Wizards to 17 points.
And I think they also kind of took a lot of the fight away from the Washington Wizards. It seemed like in that fourth quarter, a lot of the guys on Washington, there really wasn't much to what, nothing was by design. They were just coming down, firing up shots. It actually seemed like for a while there that guys were more worried about their stats than actually doing the right thing. And give the Nets credit again. They didn't score a lot of points. They only had 18. The last time they played a fourth quarter against Indiana, they went for over 40. But it was more than enough because they defended. You defend and you rebound. You create turnovers. Joe Harris got it going in the second half as well. I think if you're Jacques Vaughn, I think the biggest issue that he's going to have, he knows Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are going to be playing all the time. but a lot of other players have earned minutes, and I think for him it's a good problem to have. But Yuta Watanabe's proven that he needs to be in there. We obviously know Nick Claxton is going to be in there. Ben Simmons, you can make the case, should be playing a little bit more, and when Royce O'Neal comes back, he's going to be playing. So that's probably one of the issues that Jacque Vaughn has. But give the players and give the coaching staff a lot of credit, because everyone is playing well. They're creating, some sleepless nights probably for the coach for a good reason, wondering how he's going to try to make it all work with this roster.
And let's go back to that Indiana game for just 1 second and getting the rest for all those players. Now you have a game tonight. You don't have a game again until Friday.
Yeah.
I mean, now that you've won that game in Indiana, you kept the winning streak alive tonight in Washington. They look like absolute geniuses, and they got everybody a break.
Yeah, and that's why. So last Wednesday night, Jacque Vaughn during the pregame, when he mentioned, to me, he was hinting that Kevin Durant was not going to play in the Indiana game for what you said. If you don't play him against Indiana, then he'll play the game against Washington. You have all that time off. I said, I think he's not going to play. Nobody around here reacted. They all acted like Frank doesn't know what the heck he's talking about. But I think I was right. I think Jacque Vaughn was telling you the guy's not going to play. And I don't think Jacque Vaughn, all these coaches, you have all these great plans, and I think they just worry about each game. So this was probably, something that a lot of people were talking about. The front office, the medical staff, the other assistant coaches. And Jacque Vaughn is thinking, all right, in a perfect world, I won't play Kevin Durant on Saturday, and we'll somehow win the game. I'll get him back on Washington. He won't have to play 40, and we'll win the game. You cannot have drawn up any better. This has to be better than what they thought would work out. And here they are now on a 4-game winning streak. And like you mentioned, don't have to play until Friday.
And it matches their season high. And I just want to let you know.
Bring on the Warriors. When do they come in? That's next week.
I just want to let you know, I believed you, Frank.
Thank you.
Let's get to the highlights of this one between the Nets and Wizards. Of course, Brooklyn winning 112-100. Second quarter, Jordan Goodwin feeds it to Kuzma. He connects for the 3. Wizards up 38-34. Nets keeping it close. TJ Warren kicks it over to Kyrie. He hits the 3. 4-point play.
And that was his stretch here where Kyrie had the 4-point play, the 3-point play. Here comes the 3-point play. Poor Dotson right here, spinning this way, spinning that way. Kyrie goes down. This was the run where Kyrie really rescued the Nets because Kevin Durant was on the bench. How about this one from Kyrie? Dribbling out, create a little space. I'll go right hand. No, I'll go left hand. Finish at the rim. You know who's happy? That guy.
Yeah, and he had Kispert and Kuzma on skates that time. Third quarter, Nets lead. Nets working the ball around Ben Simmons. Passes it over to Durant, knocks down the 3. Later off the miss by Kuzma.
And that's what, how about the little drive and
There's
kick
the 3 there, yeah.
Simmons.
And then now, Kuzma misses, and here comes Durant. Irving with a nice bounce pass to Simmons here.
This was terrific. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that guys do in the summer up at Rucker Park when they're kind of just goofing around. Kyrie Irving is doing that in an NBA game and making it look so easy. Simmons
connects with Durant, who sinks the pull-up jumper and gets fouled. 3-point play puts the Nets up a baker's dozen. Later off the steal by Durant, Nets in transition. Here's the other pass you were talking about.
This is terrific from Kyrie Irving. Look at this. Just lobs it up. Ben Simmons, nice, easy pass. That's what you love about Kyrie Irving. The scoring is there, but I think he's doing a great job getting other players involved.
How about Will Barton? Dishes it over to Kuzma. That's from Virginia, as Iron Eagle said.
Wizards. Guys were starting to pad their stats a little bit. That was a deep shot by Kyle Kuzma.
Wizards down 11 seconds left. Durant taking it himself, drives to the net, hits the floater. Nets up by 11 there. Fourth quarter. Kuzma running to the net. He will hit the finger roll. He's a compiler. Wizards down by 9.
Kevin Durant's starting the fourth quarter on the bench. That's why you want to get him some rest. Here, Seth Curry gets the steal. Long pull-up 3. He misses it. TJ Warren, who also had a couple of good moments in this game.
Later in the quarter, Wizards with the ball. Nice steal by Joe Harris. Takes it all the way home for the layup. Nets up by 14 there. Under 2 minutes left. Durant working towards the net, and here comes 30, Frank.
Yep, this is his only basket of the fourth quarter. Kevin Durant's a pretty smart guy. I think he knows he was sitting on 28, and he said, I'm going to guarantee I'll get 30. I'm going to take it to the basket and dunk it. And there's your score in the fourth quarter, only 18-17. Didn't matter. The Nets get a double-digit win.
Now, the game summary brought to you by Infinity, of course. Durant with those 30 points, 9 boards, 6 assists. Kyle Kuzma leading the way for Washington with 20. Nets have won 11 of their last 14 games. And this is what we've seen out of them, Frank, when the players aren't resting. You know, they've really put the clamps on, especially in the second half, and a lot of fourth quarters. They have been shutting down the opposition.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. And once again, that's something that Jacques Vaughn has really stressed. If they're going to be a winning team, and one of the reasons now they're really moving up the standings, and they're sitting right behind the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, it didn't even look like the Nets were ever going to get that high. Now they're right on Cleveland's heels in third place. But it was about defending. And guess what? You can win games when you only score 18 points in the fourth quarter if you defend a little bit. And I think the Nets really got Washington out of what they wanted to do. I think they were just coming down at some points, just jacking up shots. Porzingis didn't do much in the second half. It was a really impressive performance.
Well, this is something that Rebecca Lobo brought up in our pregame show on Saturday. She brought up the rebounding and the defense against the Hawks late in that game that got the Nets a win. And she talked about the heart and the effort when it comes to rebounding. And that's something that you're seeing now more often than not, especially after Jacques Vaughn has taken over.
And she's 100% right. And I think that's also part of the team spirit that you're seeing. You know, you go back to that time when Kyrie first got suspended and things seemed to be in complete disarray with this Brooklyn Nets team, and you wondered where this whole thing was headed. They've done a really good job of just, you know, getting the focus back on basketball, getting the focus back on defending, playing the right way, knowing that you have a superstar player. Because let's remember, during this 4-game winning streak, you know, against Charlotte, they had a 23-point lead. Charlotte came all the way back in that game, twice cut it to 1 point, and that's when you go to Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant's the guy that twice delivered late in the fourth quarter. Not a lot of teams have a guy like Kevin Durant that could bail you out. That's why it's so refreshing what's happened over the last 2 games. Kevin Durant doesn't play, you win. Kevin Durant only gets 2 points in the fourth quarter. Let's no offense to Kevin Durant, who has scored a lot of meaningful points. So those were meaningless points late in the fourth quarter. You didn't need him tonight. And I think for Kevin Durant, that has to be a big-time plus. And I think Jacques Vaughn, it's a huge sigh of relief to know that you don't need Kevin Durant to try to bail you out and constantly have to carry the team on your back.
You know, Yankees Hot Stove is following us immediately after the postgame show, and I bring that up because you were talking about Durant, and the first thought I had was that when he comes in the game in the fourth quarter, they should start playing Enter Sandman.
There you go.
Because he's like Mariano Rivera for the Nets, and we saw that again tonight, Frank. He only shot 63% on the 7-game homestand, and he continues that tonight down in Washington. He scores 30 points, but he averaged over close to 33 points on that 7-game homestand, and with some rest, Frank, you could see what he could do.
And that's the thing. So he's leading the league in total points. He's leading the league in total minutes, and I think that's why there's a lot of times when I keep saying this, I don't need people with medical degrees to tell me that Kevin Durant will be more well-rested if he doesn't play. We all get that. But Kevin Durant wants to be out there. The guy is just cut differently. He wants to play. He knows his body better than anybody else. And what he does during the games, you can see there are times, and he knows this when he gets into a rhythm, there are times when I have to take over. There are other times when I'll get other guys involved. I think tonight was a perfect example. The guy had 30 points. You don't even remember most of his shots, and it's like he barely broke a sweat. That's how outstanding this guy is.
And by the way, judging by those numbers against the Wizards, you think he likes playing against his hometown team?
You know what he doesn't like, and if you know this from when you cover the NBA, what happens is whenever a player goes to their hometown, so they're asking their teammates for tickets, and then they're asking the PR guy for extra tickets. So before the game, the guys will sit at their locker, and now they're trying to remember all the people that they had to get tickets for, and they look like they're a ticket broker, which is why sometimes it's a distraction, because a lot of times the families don't leave these darn players alone, and everyone's looking for free tickets. So for Kevin Durant to come down there, he is excited to go home. He made a documentary about Prince George's County. He loves his hometown. It means a lot for him to play there. I think what he loves about it, you go home, he has a great game, then he goes back to his place of employment, back to Brooklyn.
How about this? In 3 games as a Net against the Wizards in Washington, D.C., 95 points.
Crazy.
In 3 games.
And he had that highlight. Remember when Daniel Gafford, the last time he was down there, and the poor guy slipped. I think the floor was wet. Even Kevin Durant gave a bell out there as well to poor Daniel Gafford. He loves playing down there. Again, it's great to see. And I think if you're Wes Unseld Jr., You can't stand it when Kevin Durant comes in because you know that he's up for it. And poor Tommy Shepard, the general manager of Washington, is saying, Chris Sheeran, keep it down. We know how Kevin Durant crushes us every time he comes down here.
Pump your brakes, Chris.
Exactly.
Pump your brakes. It wasn't just Kevin Durant tonight. When he was on the bench, Kyrie Irving really took over. And as we mentioned earlier, Frank, it was that second quarter where he really started to get into his bag.
Yeah, and this is when the Nets were down by 6. And then Kyrie gets the 4-point play there. This is spectacular, just getting the defender going, 8 different ways. That was his next. But this all came during an 11-0 run, and it concluded with this little play right here by Kyrie, switching hands in midair. Just a spectacular move. And you see everybody in the bench. We talk about the spirit. Look at everyone up cheering. And then Kyrie again, just keeping the defense off balance with lookaways and a little bounce pass. Here he just throws a lob to Ben Simmons. You love the unselfishness. It's not like UB Brown. You love the unselfishness. And look at that, that terrific game, I thought, from Kyrie Irving all the way around. It never looked like, I get it. He took 17 shots. It never really looked like he was forcing anything. It looked like he was taking shots when the Nets need him to take shots. And again, they were down 6. That 11-0 run, that was Kyrie with 9 points right there. That was really the difference in the game. The Nets took the lead, never relinquished it.
Yeah, and in theory, we talked about Kevin Durant being Mariano Rivera. I mean, it's really a two-headed monster closer. You have a two-headed Mariano Rivera in Durant and Irving, and they could take over at any time.
And that's why it seems like what we're seeing really over these last 3 weeks is something that we were hoping we would see for the past 3 years. And there's been a lot of things that have interrupted that. Injuries have interrupted it. COVID has interrupted it. You got James Harden here, which was a great thing to start out with. Last year, not so much. But it seems like now the combination of Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, the Nets, the Net fans, the organization is really seeing how dynamic these two players can be. What you hope now is just stay healthy enough come playoff time, because that was the difference. Because 2 years ago, I'll continue to say it, I think last year Milwaukee was the best team. Injuries ended their season. I thought 2 seasons ago the Nets were the best team, and it was injuries that ended their season.
And if you get Ben Simmons to keep ramping up and doing what he's doing, I mean, this team could be scary down the stretch. We're going to step aside, take our first break here on the postgame show. Plenty more to do before we get to Yankees Hot Stove. We're going to hear from Jacques Vaughn on his team's 4th straight victory. We will also talk about Ben Simmons tonight. Speak of the devil, Frank. See, it's TV. It's the segue.
It's called the tease.
How about that?
In radio, too.
And we'll also get some player reaction, too, with Megan in the locker room. Chris Sheeran, Frank Isola back here in our Yes Network studios on the Brooklyn Nets postgame show. Brooklyn wins 112-100, extending their winning streak to 4. They are now 11-3 since November 17th. That's the 2nd best record in the NBA. Let's get the thoughts from Jacques Vaughn now. Megan Triplett teeing up the first question.
Jack, when you look at this game, it looks like you guys put a lot of emphasis on getting those stops and pushing the pace. What stood out to you guys' ability to disrupt their offense?
Yeah, it was interesting. I thought you saw our guys look extremely fresh. I think that was the first thing. We had a lot of juice to start the game and plenty to finish, and to hold them to 45 points in the second half. It was pretty good by a group.
And Ben told us out there on the court that it's the trust. You've been saying that, game after game, but how have you seen it? How did you see it kind of grow even tonight?
Megan, really what I'm love seeing is you look at one of our huddles where we use the iPad to see what happened on the play before, and you have the group talking to each other and trying to make adjustments at the same time. We didn't have that previously, and so that communication, whether it was a clip guys wanted to see at halftime that we can talk through. So I think that's where the trust is going, to be able to communicate, to be able to ask questions, a little psychological safety, you know what I'm saying, where you can ask and not be reprimanded and try to figure this thing out together.
Is there a reasoning why you've seen that improve over time?
I think guys want to win, and that's what happens when you're playing winning basketball. You're not thinking about yourself, you're thinking about the group and how the group can get better and how you can add to the group.
Is that kind of exemplified by a guy like Kyrie, who's done as much as he has and has accomplished as much as he had, going airborne in the 4th quarter with an 11-point lead?
Without a doubt, Brian, and we said that to him in the timeout. For him to, and it was a previous rebound also where he ended up tapping one out and going over and just sacrificing his body and just for that play. And so you have guys like that, the leaders on your team, being able to make plays and sacrifice their bodies. It spreads.
So many times earlier in the season, we'd be up here and you guys would shoot 50% and 40% from deep and free throw line, but you'd give up like a dozen, 15, 14 more shots. These last few games, I mean, you've actually had an advantage in attempts. How big is that to kind of allow the natural efficiency of the players that you have to come through?
Yeah, you're spot on. It's huge. And I think our guys, hopefully, are starting to realize that the equity they put in on rebounding the basketball will pay dividends. And it's extremely hard. We have to play more perfect, I guess, as a team when we give up, 7, 10, 15 shots we've had before, where people have had 15 more shots than us. It's just hard to overcome, puts more stress on your defense, and you have to be more perfect offensively.
You went 11 deep early in that first half. I know you talked about it pregame, just about how much depth this team has, but what did you see tonight that made you want to do that?
Yeah, it was great. I figured guys would have juice, but at the same time, didn't want Kevin and Kai to play 38 minutes either. I think Kev ends up playing 33 minutes. We're pretty spread across the board, being able to utilize everybody. And the big part was, it puts a little bit, honestly, more pressure on the guy to perform, because you do have someone behind you that can sub and come in and play hard and play efficiently and effectively. That happened early to Nick. Quick exchange. We had a couple of defensive breakdowns, and we had someone to come in for him, and then he was able to come back in. So I like that it puts pressure on the guys to perform and holds them accountable, but we have some depth, and we're going to use it.
Jack, you mentioned the iPad during timeouts. How often do you use it? How often do you use it? And maybe what was the formula you've come up with to make it beneficial for your squad?
Yeah, it's interesting. Guys just, obviously learn in different ways. And, sometimes you see it and the way you see it, my college coach used to say the eye in the sky don't lie. And when they see it on the iPad, it's the truth. And so we'll actually huddle around, pull the clip, be able to visually see it, how we can get better from it, what actually happened, not what you thought happened, and not have hurtful or harmful feelings. We're just trying to figure it out, which is good.
And then we all see what Kevin does offensively, but from the coach's standpoint, what are some of the subtle things that he does that makes you guys so much better offensively lately?
Well, his ability to attract attention. And for him to still attract all that attention, that at the end of the night, you look how efficient he is. And so his ability to garner double teams, to get to the rim for us when we need to, just overall being able to be, at the end of the night, an efficient player.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
We talked about Kyrie Irving's full game, Frank, the hustle, the offensive play, but I just want to expound on what Jacques Vaughn just brought to the table there, and that is the trickle-down effect of the hustle from a player like Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
How much volume does that have with the rest of the team?
And I think, we talk about it a lot here. Everyone thinks that leadership is a guy who's giving rah-rah speeches in the locker room. That looks good in the movies. If it's Knute Rockne, it doesn't really always work. And with a lot of players, it's about leading by example. And I think Kevin Durant has done that since he's been here, by the way that he prepares for a game, the way that he's played. I really think we've seen it from Kyrie Irving now over the past couple of weeks. And certainly, yes, being unselfish has a lot to do with it, making that extra pass that he's willing to do, also being a willing defender, which he's had a lot of moments during this stretch. And today, going after that loose ball, that stuff's important. First half, he was on the ground after a loose ball. Second half, he dives into the crowd. It looked like Charles Oakley there for a minute, grabbing the loose ball, throwing it, and basically using the fans to brace your fall. And those are the kind of things, to me, that resonate more in a locker room with your teammates, especially your younger teammates, than just saying something. It's not about saying something. It's about actually going out on the court and doing it. And I think Kyrie Irving has been that way. There's been a couple of games where he's dove on the floor for a loose ball. He said, where has this been for the past couple couple of years. He's just a different player, especially over the last 3 weeks.
And I think over the last couple of weeks, we're seeing a different team, too. And I want to bring up the iPad there that he was talking about and how they could look at plays during timeouts and actually show people what's going on as the play was happening. And everyone gets to have input, and no one has bad feelings. And he mentioned the fact that it's just wanting to win, and I thought that was really high up there too.
Don't lie,
exactly,
as they say. Why do you think that Tom Brady smashes those iPads? And he's taking one. Yesterday he took one, just kind of flinged it, because it's always going to tell you the true story. And you know, every team has 9 million assistant coaches, so you would think during those timeouts you get to show guys stuff. I still love earlier this season, Mike Brown of the Sacramento Kings actually took one of his players during the timeout, walked him onto the court to tell him where he had to stand. But I do think the one thing that Jacques Vaughn, I think that he has going for him right now, you can just tell, I think 1 through 15, this roster, guys are really engaged. And again, when you win, when you get the results, that really keeps everyone's attention. So right now they're on a tremendous roll. Again, the key will be, it's a long season to be able to sustain that. And as we know, we've seen this before the past couple of years, health is always the key.
Absolutely. Frank, we're going to step aside once again, take another break here on the post-game show. When we come back, we'll hear from the guy who went home to beat the Washington Wizards. That would be Kevin Durant. We're back with Kevin Durant Reaction right after this on Yes, and streaming, of course, on the Yes app.
The Nets post-game show on Yes is brought to you in part by the New York Lottery. Get out there and play.
Chris Shear and Frank Isola back here in our Yes Network studios. The Brooklyn Nets beat the Washington Wizards 112-100, extending their winning streak to 4 straight games. Frank, Ben Simmons, just 23 minutes in this one, but when he was on the floor, he was very efficient.
Yeah, 10 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists for Ben Simmons. He looks a lot more confident. He also looks like he's looking for his shot a little bit more. And when I say looking for his shot, he's not 20 feet from the basket looking to knock down jumpers. He's attacking more. I thought he had a great little drive and kick. I actually think he should probably be playing more minutes. But, you know, he has been carrying some injuries, and I think it gives him a chance, you know, to kind of ease him back into the lineup. They have reduced his minutes a lot, but he's played really well as a starter because, remember, he gives you a lot of flexibility on offense because he can handle the ball, he can pass, but defensively can guard multiple positions as well.
And I was just going to bring that up. We saw him on Kristaps Porzingis a couple of times tonight, and he did yeoman's work on the big fella. Let's take a look now at some of the highlights from Ben Simmons in this Nets win over the Wizards down in D.C. And you see him, Frank, working here with Kevin Durant, playing a 2-man game.
And this was a great little move here. Porzingis, really poor defense, and Ben then using the rim to kind of block off Porzingis, converts it. Here he misses that little floater, gets the rebound, and that's what you like. He did look off at Joe Harris for a minute, but he decided to throw it back up, and he made it.
And that was that brilliant pass from Kyrie Irving, setting up the cutting Simmons there that you love so much. And here's the other one. Kyrie putting up the alley-oop for Simmons to throw it down. And as you mentioned, Frank, his numbers, 10 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists on 5 of 9 shooting in 23 minutes. But we saw before he got injured the last time that high calf strain he was holding behind his knee when he left that game. He was really starting to look like the Ben Simmons of old. And if that continues to happen for this team, it's only good news.
Well, if you go back to probably the first 2 weeks to 20 days of the season, the conversation, not just here, but all around the league is Ben Simmons ever going to get it back? Did he completely lose it? Has that been a conversation at all the last 6 weeks? Nobody talks about that anymore. Now it's just a given that Ben Simmons can be a contributing player. And all that time that he missed last year, he's slowly starting to get it back. I think the Nets would like to see him still be a little bit more aggressive offensively. I think he's cleared a big hurdle there. I think he has been more aggressive. And again, he's never going to be able to sit back there and shoot 3-pointers. You don't really need him to do that, but you do still want to see him be a little bit more aggressive offensively.
Something I've picked up on as we're watching the games back there, Frank, is his body language.
Yeah.
It is
Even when he's on the bench and not playing.
Yes, it is a 180 from earlier on in the season. He is out there with a confidence that you could see.
But it's funny, too, because while everyone was kind of pushing the panic button, especially a lot of the fans, a lot of us in the media, he was the one saying, it'll come, relax, don't worry. You know, remember, I was out for more than a year. I had back surgery. Just be patient. He never looked like he was panicking. Now, maybe that's just his personality, where he's got a pretty good poker face, but guess what? He ended up being right up to this point because he really has had a dramatic change with the way that he's played, and it really all started on that West Coast trip when he was making contributions in key games.
You've mentioned he's cleared some hurdles. Are there any more hurdles you think he has to clear?
Well, I still think it's a free throw shooting. Remember, late in this game, Washington had one foul to give before they went into the penalty. So they were going to go with the hack of Ben, and Jock Vaughn said, we're not going to mess around with that. The minute they committed the fourth foul, they took Ben out, waited till they were going to be under 2 minutes to go. Ben didn't have to go back into the game. So I still think the free throw shooting. But for me, he looks comfortable when he's going up to the line. So the shot doesn't always look great. But to me, he doesn't look like he's walking to the free throw line thinking, oh, man, this is the last place on earth I'd rather be. I think he's gotten over that hurdle a little bit.
All right, well, we promised you'd hear Kevin Durant before the break, and Frank and I, we keep our promises.
Sometimes.
Yeah, well, we're going to deliver now. Let's hear from Kevin Durant on this win over the Wizards.
Kevin, what, in your mind, what's kind of been the ticket to you guys getting more possessions? Like usually in the beginning of the season, you guys would give away 10 shots, 11 shots, 12 shots, but the last few games, you've turned that to your advantage and allowed your natural efficiency to take over.
Yeah, we're pretty even on the boards throughout the game, but I think we turned them over. 19 turnovers that could get us out on the break. I think our defensive pressure was good, was allowing us to get some turnovers, get some deflections, and was able to get out in transition, get some easy shots up. You know, shooting 10 more shots than this team, that's always a good formula for you to have a successful offense. And we was able to convert some too.
And Jacques talked a lot about kind of building trust within the team and just asking guys to play hard. When we see you, with this huge grin after you block a shot and Kai going in the stands up 11 in the fourth, I mean, are these kind of indicative of that kind of workmanlike ethos that he's trying to preach? Yeah.
I mean, first of all, we want to be a connected group on both ends of the floor. And, in a lot of these plays that you make, sometimes you just got to be there to protect your teammates. And, so once we had that in our minds that, somebody gets beat, we have to be there. Somebody might have made a mistake on a switch or a backdoor cut, we still got to be there. And I think we've been preaching that. And, the hustle plays come with that. And, everybody's buying into it. So, that's the toughest part of the game, to be honest, is to continue to consistently do that every single night. And that's what the great teams do. They dial that up every night, even when the offense is not working. You still be a connected group on the defensive side. So we're building something, we got to continue to keep fine-tuning.
Kevin, you guys are at 8 of 9 now. Is there something you can point to in the last couple of weeks that really has clicked overall?
Favorable schedule, being at home for 7 of those, and being able to wake up in our own beds and have our own routine at home definitely matters. We also faced a couple teams that missed some guys as well, but for the most part, I like the brand of basketball we played on both ends of the floor. Regardless of who was on the court, we still played our system, and we did the things that we wanted to do out there on both ends. So, yeah, I mean, being at home counts. Having everybody back as well, healthy, counts. So we just want to keep plugging away.
Kevin, I mean, give up 45 points in the second half. I mean, you really play defense. A month ago, almost exactly a month ago, in, Sacramento, your defense looked like it looked good. I mean, what has it just been having easy games, or is it more than that?
No, I wouldn't say we had easy games.
I don't mean that, but...
Yeah, I mean, even with that Sacramento loss, we gave 150, but the 4, 5, 6 games before that, that game we were holding teams under 100 points. You know, so I know we want to be more consistent, and we have been, but it's going to be times where we're up and down. What we want to do on the defensive side of the ball, trying to figure each other out. We're playing so, you know, sometimes we might switch our defense throughout the game, and so. But for the most part, guys are just playing hard, trying to stay in front of the ball. That's a simple part of the game. Just you in front of your man, trying to guard that one-on-one, and then we rebound the ball better.
You're facing a Washington team that's been struggling of late. What was the emphasis on just never giving them any hope, getting off to a good start, and kind of taking it away from them from jump?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this being a trap game. You got some guys injured. I mean, we played a trap game last game against Indiana where they might have came in against us and relaxed a bit, and our young guys came in and won that game. So we didn't want to make that same mistake and come out and underestimate these pros out here because they're pros and they're all talented. So regardless of who's in the lineup, guys want to showcase who they are. So we had to make sure that, you know, we were focused on both ends of the floor and knowing that, you know, we could use our schemes to, you know, get an advantage. But if we'd have played too relaxed and, you know, with no sense of urgency, we'd have definitely lost this game.
For you guys to win in Indiana shorthanded, what does that say to you about this group and the job that Jock is doing?
I mean, it's just everybody loves to play. Jock is doing a great job of making adjustments throughout the game, and that game was just incredible. Indiana made a lot of shots, but we weathered the storm and we stayed poised, and that's the type of team, you know, you want to be on. Regardless of what's going on around you, everybody staying focused and staying, you know, to the mission. And I think, you know, the game was able to turn for us last game. So that was key. You give guys confidence coming off the bench, guys that don't play as much, but they still got confidence from playing games like that. It was huge for us.
Kevin, what do you notice about this team with Bradley and without Bradley?
I mean, he's a Hall of Fame All-Star scorer. Player, sorry. Calling him just a scorer is diminishing who he is. I mean, you take that away from your team. I mean, you're trying to figure out where that presence is going to be, that impact is going to be felt from. So, and then you got Rui hurt. Then you got Porzingis was out the second half. So they've been hit with some injuries, and it's felt like it's been like that for this team the last couple of years. But when they all on the court, they got some you know, a lot of talent. And once they put it all together, I know they'll go off on a run.
You said you were building something with this squad right now. What are you starting to see that's sustainable long term?
The effort we playing with on the defensive side of the ball, I think, you know, we figure out what type of team we want to be on that side of the ball, and you know, we continue to keep trusting each other on the offensive end. That'll feed on our defense. We take efficient shots. Well, I think we're an efficient ball club on the offensive side of the ball, too, so that helps our defense. But we try to hang our hat on, you know, keeping our man in front, guarding one-on-one, and providing help when needed. So that's sustainable in any form of basketball.
When you say figure out what you want to be defensively, I mean, you guys have, you know, been switching a lot. You've been kind of red team, red up a lot. So what have you learned? Like, what lineups work with who, what locations, or?
Yeah, just, you know, we switch, but sometimes throughout the game, you want to stay with your own man. Sometimes you don't have to switch your action, and we want to continue to keep those matchups the way we want to keep them. So in order for us to be a good team, we can't just lazy switch, point switch, and have a small on the big when we don't have to. And I think we're figuring that out as well. And, you know, we want to be a team that can switch out and guard multiple, you know, players. We got versatile defenders, but we don't want to put a smaller matchup on a bigger matchup or vice versa and cause a, you know, we call a blender when guys driving and swinging and kicking, and now we're in scramble mode. So we want to keep the ball in front, and I think that's what we're working on now.
Thoughts from Kevin Durant right there. How about this, Frank? Most games with 25 or more points, Nets, NBA history. Look who he's right behind now. One game behind our Richard Jefferson.
When do they play again? Friday?
Richard, you're gonna
after that.
You're gonna have some company, and you're gonna be put in the dust.
I don't think I ever would have guessed Brook Lopez would be there.
And let's not forget, James Smythe just let us know, started the season, 17 straight games with 25 points or more. And, you know, Kevin Durant, he was asked about, you know, how the team has done this 8 of the last 9, and he was very honest.
Yeah, he said favorable schedule. And, you know, you think about the stretch that they've been on for really about 3 weeks now, even going back to the Memphis game, without Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., Portland without Damian Lillard. You get Charlotte, LaMelo Ball, Miles Bridges aren't around. Atlanta, DeJounte Murray, DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, and Bradley Beal tonight. But guess what? The Nets last year, how many games did they go into?
Exactly.
They didn't have Kyrie Irving, and then when Kevin Durant had that knee injury and was missing for all those games. So guess what? It balances itself out. And right now, the Nets are the team that's taking advantage. But I think Kevin Durant's also realistic. The team is playing really well. They're winning games. They're moving up in the standings. But Kevin Durant also knows what time of year it is. It's only December. A lot happens over the next few months. We're a long ways away from the start of the playoffs.
And you know what, Frank? Last December, didn't the Nets have the best record in the Eastern Conference? And then he got hurt, and then maybe the Nets are starting their ascent now. And a big reason for that, obviously, is Kevin Durant. And the next guy we're going to hear from, too, that's Kyrie Irving. Let's get thoughts from Kyrie.
Ty, this is twofold. Jacques has always talked a lot about, building trust and asking you guys to play hard. When you see KD with that huge grin after a block and you're diving in the stands like headlong up 11 in the fourth, I mean, are these kind of exemplifying the kind of ethos that he's been preaching?
Yeah, building trust, that consistency, that discipline, and just having some fun out there, competing at a high level, doing all the little things, that makes a game swing sometimes. And it matters at the end of the day. We've been talking about it over the last few weeks, so just these little things. We had a great homestand, and now we got to take care of it on the road. Just have some fun doing it. When KD has a grin on his face, that means we're playing hard. Our leader's happy. And, all of us are taking that leadership role as well and controlling what we can control.
When earlier in the season, you guys would frequently give up possessions. By that, I don't mean you're trying hard in the possessions. I mean you're giving up 8, 10, 12 more shots than you're taking. Yeah. The last few games, you've done a better job of evening that out or having an advantage in that to let your efficiency take over. What's been the key to that in your mind?
Just coming in prepared, putting in the work, and just letting the game come to you and just responding. We obviously want to be the aggressors going into games, and I think at times we can play back on our heels, so we're working towards just building that consistency of just coming out and setting the pace on what we want to do. And I think as you'll see in the future, we'll make some changes on the fly in games where, different lineups, guys playing harder. Jacques made it very clear that if you're not playing hard enough, he's going to let you know about it. And, we got guys on the bench that are willing to go out and do those things. So it makes you take advantage of the time you're out there and the minutes you're out there, and then hold everybody else accountable.
Kyrie, you guys have won now 4 in a row, 8 of 9. As you look back over the last couple of weeks specifically, what do you think has clicked?
And just being in a good rhythm. Basketball guys rewarding us for playing hard.
25 assists on 44 made baskets. I know assists doesn't always tell the story, but do you think that's coming because you're getting the ball to the guys in the right spots? Is it the ball movement, combination of both?
Just making the right basketball reads. Like all of us work really hard in our game, so we want to go out there and play hard for one another. And when you have, nights where other teams don't necessarily have their starters, it could be a trap game, setup game. So we just want to establish our identity. Everybody that gets minutes, play as hard as you can, and live with the results.
I would have asked you really at shoot around, but I mean, did you have any thoughts on Brittany Griner? I mean, I know this is something that you've discussed in the past, but did you have any thoughts on her being finally?
Yeah, I'm grateful she's home. Grateful she's with her family. Most importantly, humanity comes first. We all feel for her. We all feel for everyone that is wrongfully imprisoned or in some type of prison somewhere where they haven't gotten their justice. So we feel for her for sure. I'm just grateful that we all can share in the celebration with her being here, and still more work to do out in our world.
Kyrie, have you seen enough of what's transpired recently to believe this is sustainable long term?
What do you mean?
That you can keep winning at this rate or similar to this rate?
That's a good question. just going to do our jobs every day. Live with the results at the end of the season when things really are clicking, hopefully. And I don't want to say hopefully. They will be clicking. We just got to put in the work. And whether it's sustainable or not, we're going to have to prove that to ourselves every time we lace them up, every time we come in this locker room, every time we prepare. We know what the job is, so go handle it. And, you know, teams are going to give us their best shots. But, again, we want to be the aggressors out there.
Do you think you guys, as a whole, big picture, are more process-oriented than results-oriented than you were last year?
Man, let's just go win ball games. That's it. That's really what the attitude is. Let's go win ball games. We know the talent we have. This is our group. No more excuses. No more distractions. You know what I mean? No more just throwing in kind of these surprise injuries. You know, we just want everybody to be healthy, everybody to have fun coming in and you know, playing their game.
That was it right there, and I'll bring up the health first because you mentioned that in our last segment, but no more distractions, no more excuses, just get wins.
Yeah. He also answers every question asked to this guy is like a 30,000-foot view. Can we ever ask him about what happened in the game? How about the unbelievable play that he had? Like, what's going through your mind?
How about the second quarter where he...
On something like that where you're dribbling, you get the rebound, you dribble into the paint, you dribble back out, you go into the paint, you attack. It's on your right hand, your left hand. It's not like we see that all the time. Ask him about that. Like, what's going through your mind in a moment like that? Is that when you know you're feeling it? Also, the play that he had in the second half when he kind of did a look away, look this way, and then bounce pass to Ben Simmons. We always have to ask him, tell us about the world. Tell us about how you're feeling right this minute, the process. Enough sometimes. I got to get back on the beat. I'm sorry.
Are you good?
I just want to ask specific questions once in a while. The guy had an unbelievable game tonight.
He did.
You know what? I can't believe it. Let's cut Kyrie some slack. Ask him about the game. There were some unbelievable things that he did in this game tonight. That's what I want to hear Kyrie talk about. Sorry, I apologize.
Can I go to break now?
Yes, let's go.
Okay.
Let's go.
Got to step aside, take another break here. Frank is off of his soapbox, so we can head to break, and we will tease out of towns. I'll show you some highlights when we come back here on the Brooklyn Nets postgame show on Yes, and streaming, of course, on the Yes app. As soon as we finish the post-game show, stay with Yes and the Yes app for a brand new edition of Yankees Hot Stove. Bob Lorenz, Jack Curry, and John Flaherty will get you up to speed on all the headlines from around baseball. Plus, they'll have the latest on Yankees rumors, and Meredith Marakovitz interviews Nestor Cortez. And not just any Nestor Cortez, all-star Nestor Cortez. Frank, T.J. Warren played another role here. The Nets had a deep bench tonight. Jacques Vaughn only didn't play Patty Mills and Day'Ron Sharp, but what are your thoughts about T.J. Warren since he's come back?
T.J. Warren is a scorer, and he was out for a long time, but he's going to get the ball, he's going to shoot. And what you like about it, in a league where now everyone's shooting three-pointers, this guy actually has a mid-range game. And I still think there's going to come points when Kevin Durant is on the bench in the second quarter, the fourth quarter, they need scoring. This is the guy that they're going to go to.
And, that's something that Tim Legler was talking about to you on your radio show today, the mid-range jumper. You really need that, especially if you want to go deep into the playoffs. He was talking about the Bucks when he was discussing it, but you got a guy like Kevin Durant now, T.J. Warren. He could actually...
Absolutely. Yeah. And to think about a guy, you're talking about Chris Middleton with the Milwaukee Bucks, who's so good with his mid-range game. And when you don't have a guy like that, you could defend a little bit more on the perimeter. And I think for the Brooklyn Nets, they needed to add that additional score. Because there were times, remember, when T.J. Warren was recovering from the foot surgery and he had been out nearly 2 years, there were times when Kevin Durant was out of the game for that stretch in the second quarter, in the fourth quarter. That's when he comes out. And there were moments when you're thinking, how are the Brooklyn Nets going to score? Now that everybody's healthy and T.J. Warren is there, now they have offense that they can generate when their best player is seated.
All right, we're going to step aside, take another break. The Hot Stove crew has entered the studio. Sound the alarm, Frank.
Let's go. Did Aaron Judge sign yet?
I think yes.
Is Jack back from vacation in San Diego?
We could get Jack Curry to confirm that for us right after this. That.
Now, the Brooklyn Nets, it's been really good for them. And I think the last two games, again, you win a game where Kevin Durant doesn't play, and then you win a game tonight where he only takes one shot in the fourth quarter and only scores 2 points. Because you know there are going to come times, and we've seen it already at the start of the season, where he needs to bail them out of games. He bailed them out of a game last week against Charlotte where they had a 23-point lead. So I think for Jacques Vaughn, you have to be so encouraged that you're winning games where you can rest Kevin Durant, and then you don't need him to carry you in the fourth quarter.
We talked about the Miami Miami Heat being a surprise, and that's obvious. They're 2 games under 500. What about the Toronto Raptors for you? Are they surprising?
And,
as well?
they haven't been good on the road, but obviously the game's going to be up in Toronto. A lot of people are surprised, and a lot of people believe that Masai Ujiri might start making moves if it doesn't improve sooner rather than later for Toronto. They've been one of the bigger disappointments. Right now, they're a sub-500 team. The Atlantic Division is good. Remember, the Nets went up there the night before Thanksgiving and took them out, but it's still talent. Pascal Siakam is a good player. Fred VanVleet, Scotty Barnes, one of the top young players in the league. OG Anunoby has been one of the most improved. They're just not getting the results. It's hard to explain it. And Nick Nurse is a really good coach. The Atlantic Division, which is so good with the Knicks, Philadelphia, obviously Boston, right now Toronto in last place.
And I alluded to the point that they're going to be done with their season series already. And their division rivals, that has to grind your gears as well.
Yeah, I don't like that when the league does that. Even, Phoenix and New Orleans are done right now, and they almost got into a fight on Friday night. You'd like to see them play again, preferably on Christmas. What a perfect time to get into a fight would be on Christmas Day. I don't like that. I mean, come on, you should spread them out. Why play all 4 games even before Christmas? I don't like that.
Yeah, that's going to do it for us here on the post-game show. Once again, the final score from Washington, D.C. The Nets 112, the Wizards 100. Brooklyn stays hot and defeats Washington for the 3rd time this season. Now for Frank Isola and all of us here at Yes, I'm Chris Sheeran. Thanks for joining us. We will see you next time. And stay tuned for Yankees Hot Stove coming up next. We had Yuta Watanabe, a GW graduate that played in this game tonight, and we're going to have a GW graduate sitting at this desk.
You should have said GW legend.
Sorry, GW legend.
Thank you. Get it right, Chris.
John
My God.
Flaherty. He's coming up next on Yankees
Working
Hot
late.
Stove with Bob Lorenz and Jack Curry.
Fordham legend.
Fordham legend. And USC legend, Bob Lorenz.